Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, rich or poor, white or black, one thing is clear. Huey Long's legacy as a leader will be of one who fought for the little guy and at times hurt the big guy to do so. At the time of Long's agenda, America had hit its worst recession ever. Banks were unreliable, businesses were being foreclosed on, and national unemployment was at an all-time high. Franklin D. Roosevelt and others had begun to establish a series of programs known as the New Deal. Long, however, didn't think that the New Deal was the answer for America's economic issues. Long's counter to the New Deal? The share of wealth agenda was his solution. Long believed that the key to solving America's economic issues was to make it into a society where everyone had, quote, a home, and the comforts of a home, including an automobile, and a radio, and the things it takes in that house to live on. Huey Long, or the Kingfish, as he was known by citizens of Louisiana, was a passionate speaker about his goals for society. He was known as the Kingfish because he once stated, "I'm a small fish here in Washington, but I'm the kingfish to the folks down in Louisiana." On December 11, 1934, Long spoke to the Senate staffers of the Washington Press Club about his plans for the Share the Wealth agenda.
According to the tables which we have assembled, it is our estimate that 4% of the American people own 85% of the wealth of America, and that over 70% of the people of America don't own enough to pay the debts that they owe. How many men ever went to a barbecue and would let one man take off the table what's intended for 9/10 of the people to eat? The only way you'll ever be able to feed the balance of the people is to make that man come back and bring back some of that grub he ain't got no business with. Now, how are you going to feed the balance of the people? What's Morgan and Baruch and Rockefeller and Mellon going to do with all that grub? They can't eat it. They can't wear the clothes. They can't live in the house. Give them a yacht. Give them a palace. Send them to Reno and give them a new wife when they want it. If that's what they want. But when they've got everything on the God's living earth that they can eat and they can wear and they can live in, and all that their children can live in and wear and eat and all their children's children can use, then we got to call Mr. Morgan and Mr. Mellon and Mr. Rockefeller back and say, come back here. Put that stuff back on this table here that you took away from here, that you don't need. Leave something else for the American people to consume. And that's the program.
The Share Our Wealth agenda was highly popular and controversial. On one side, you have a family that barely has enough money to clothe their own children and jump at the chance to sign up for the program. Then, on the other side, you have a man who's never known a life of poverty, a man who's been considerably wealthy throughout their lifetime. The agenda proposed a system in which there were several programs for citizens affected by the recession, including guaranteeing every family an annual income of $2,000, a free college education, vocational training, etc. This led to an outpour of support for Long and his movement. People all over the country, blacks, whites, poor, middle class. This drastically affected the political landscape of the United States.
We start from the bottom, that the 25 or more million American families shall have a homestead, a home, and the comforts of a home, including an automobile and a radio the things it takes in that house to live on. We say to America, 125 million, none shall be too big, none shall be too poor, none shall work too much, none shall be idle. No luxurious mansions empty, none walking the streets, none impoverished, none in pestilence, none in want, but in the land blessed by the smile of the Creator, with everything to be consumed, to be eaten, to be worn, that America will become a land sharing the fruits of the land, not for the favored few, not to satisfy greed, but that all may live in a land in which the Lord has provided an abundance sufficient for the luxury and convenience of the people in general.
I mentioned how a lot of people loved and respected Long, right? Well, as many people as there were who loved him, there were still quite a few that didn't like him either. One man hated him enough to kill him. Long's ideals involved in the share our wealth agenda are still being used today, and in some cases are still just as controversial as they were back then. The entire country may have been affected by Long's ideals had he not been assassinated before the presidential election. The Great Depression was not ended by these ideas, but they greatly affected the landscape of the Great Depression. Certain organizations today still heavily advertise these ideals, one of them being Occupy Wall Street. Huey Long's ideals may have influenced some very influential politicians and people, including George Wallace, a deceased former two-time governor of Alabama and a very racially indecisive leader, as well as former United States President Jimmy Carter, who integrated the state of Georgia during his term as governor. Out of these three men, one thing consistently pops up: they each fight and argue for the common man. Long's legacy as a leader will be of one who fought for the little guy and at times hurt the big guy to do so. Long's agenda may have been advertised for many underlying reasons, but the single most visible reason being to help the impoverished people of America and hurt the wealthy.
Farmer's got to go to work from sun up to sundown. Then he's got to load 'em up and get his crop to town. He's alright, he's got a brand new road he's driving on. He can thank God and Huey Long. Junior's got to go to school to learn to read and write. Daddy only had a slate to get his letters right. Junior's got a school book that can teach him right from wrong. He can thank God